All right, we ready to roll? Let's go, let's go. It sounds really loud. Am I usually that loud out there? I feel like I'm loud. No? Good. Okay. Y'all used to. I'm just not used to hearing me in the middle, from the middle of the room. All right, let's go to 13. Exodus 13. Getting close, getting close. We'll probably do maybe 3 more weeks, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break and just not me have to think and not me have to teach on Wednesday nights for a couple of weeks, just to let my brain kind of rest and see where we're going to go next. So come on in, baby. All right, last verse of 12 is what? We're out of here. It's the exit of us. Thus the exodus. So we exited, we left, we're out of here. So in 13, he says, the Lord spoke to Moses, consecrate every firstborn male to me, the firstborn from every womb among the Israelites, both man and domestic animal. It is mine. Okay? So what does the word consecrate mean? Because y'all use that word all the time, right? Just to dedicate, not a bad way of saying it, all right? To set something apart, good, okay? In the Hebrew, it's kadosh, all right? Kadosh, all right? And in the Greek, it's hagios. Hagios is our word for holy, all right? It's to make something holy. It's to make something separate or distinct. You set this apart as something that is precious, holy, pure, whatever word you want to attach to that, okay? So he's telling them as they're coming out, literally as they're leaving the gates of Egypt, he's saying, here's the thing. You're going to consecrate every firstborn male to me, both man and beast, all right? In other words, you're going to hand it over to me. It belongs to me now. It does not belong to you anymore. All right? What we have is this progression of firstborn, firstborn, and firstborn in the text of Exodus. All right? So he says to Pharaoh, he says, I'm going to tell Pharaoh that you're not going to let my firstborn, the Israelites, go. So I'm going to kill your firstborn because you wouldn't let my firstborn, all of the Israelites, y'all with me? So the Israelites are his firstborn children, okay? Pharaoh, your firstborn male child is going to die because you wouldn't let my firstborn go. So as they come out on the heels of the firstborn of the Egyptians being killed, he says to them what? To commemorate this, you are to consecrate, make sacred, make holy your firstborn. Like, you were my firstborn, I killed Pharaoh's firstborn, now your firstborn is going to be an offering to me. And you're going to bring that to me every year at the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay? All right? Man and animal. All right? Which gets interesting in there. All right? 3. Then Moses said to the people, remember this day when you came out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery, for the Lord brought you out. Now, why did the Lord bring him out? Because they were so well behaved? Did they earn their way out? It was a promise, all right, from Genesis 15. I am going to bring you out, all right? But was there any merit to it? Were they so well behaved in Egypt that God went, well, I got to now. I mean, look how well behaved they've been. They deserve it. I owe it to them to bring them out, all right? And that's going to be a theme that's going to play right up to the point of Mount Sinai when he says, here's the 10 Commandments, all right? It's not so that I will bring you out of Egypt. It's because I did bring you out of Egypt, which is what I say all the time. Christianity is not a religion of obligation. It's a religion of expectation. I brought you out. Now here's 10 commandments. My expectation is that you will follow them because I have rescued you, because I have saved you, because I have brought you out. Not so that I will, all right? Same thing we do with that cross. None of us earned that cross. But he said, I'm going to die for you. Now my expectation of you is what? 3 words. Love one another. Very good. All right. So watch that rhythm that you'll always see this. It's not so that I will bring you out. It's because I already did. Because I already did. And it's really interesting. 1,000 years later, we get a change from this because I brought you out of Egypt, because I brought you out of Egypt, because I brought you out of Egypt. It's going to flip to because I brought you back from Babylon. So we had the Egyptian slavery. We think, sort of 1600 to 1400, and then we'll have the Babylonian captivity in the 600s. And then when they come back, it changes, which is just a really interesting thing. You go from that into Jeremiah when they do talk about that. So, all right. But again, I want to emphasize this. It is about the expectation. I brought you out, therefore my expectation of you is this is how you will live. Okay? So remember this day when you came out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery, for the Lord brought you out of here by the strength of his hand, nothing leavened, all right? Yeast, everybody with me? Nothing with yeast in it. Nothing yeast may be eaten, okay? Because this is during that period. We had Passover, which leads directly into what festival? I've already said it, and plus it's right here. Unleavened bread, okay? So Passover is on the 14th, twilight of the 14th day, 15th through the 22nd-ish, 21st-ish, we're not sure exactly where that falls, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So the Passover happens. Pharaoh says, go away. They do go away. They don't have time for the yeast to rise in the dough. So for 7 days, they eat unleavened bread. So this is that festival that comes about, okay? So we're going to combine don't eat yeast during this time and consecrate your firstborn because you were my firstborn, and because Pharaoh wouldn't let you go, I killed his firstborn. So now you are going to commemorate this by giving me your firstborn. Everybody got all that? Okay, it kind of all gets thrown into the mix right here, and you're going, whoa, where did all that come from all at the same time? Verse 4, today in the month of Abib, which is also referred to as Nisan, N-I-S-A-N, all right? You are leaving. When the Lord brings you into the land of, in this little rhythm, you get these people, Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers. Which fathers? To whom did God swear the land? I promise to give you this land. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? Those are the fathers. Those are the patriarchs. Anytime it says those words, those three. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's where it always comes back to. That he would give you a land flowing with what? Milk and honey, all right? In case you need some cereal. You must carry out this ritual, all right? What ritual? No leaven, no bread, no yeast, okay? Carry out this ritual in this month. For 7 days, you must not eat unleavened bread. On the 7th day, there will be a festival to the Lord. Unleavened bread is to be eaten for those 7 days. Nothing leavened may be found among you. No yeast may be found among you in all your territory. All right, everybody get the point that there's no yeast, no leaven, no nothing? Okay, very, very strict rule. On that day, now here, parents, you got to pay attention. On that day, explain to your son. Now, have we got this rhythm before? Have we got this sort of imperative? When your sons ask, tell them this is what happened. When your sons ask, we'll get it a second time in the same text, all right? Because that's the expectation that of parents, that we will be the ones telling our children what happened before, all right? I guess they didn't have children's ministers and youth ministers back then, okay? So now we have to do all this stuff, all right? This is because of what the Lord did for me, because you're telling the story. So when you tell the story to your son, you say me, when I came out of Egypt. Let it serve as a sign for you on your hand as a reminder, on your forehead, so that the Lord's instruction may be in your mouth. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with a strong hand. Again, emphasizing that expectation. I brought you out, so you need to remember, and you need to tell your children. All right? Now, when it says, let this sign be on your hand as a reminder, on your forehead, does anybody know what they're referring to there? Has anybody ever seen an Orthodox Jewish person with leather straps around their wrist? All right? It looks like sort of a cool little wristband kind of a thing you're working there, but what it is, you take a leather strap and you will write scripture on this leather strap, and then you take it, fix it on around your hand, and then you wrap it around your wrist 7 times. All right? And this is called the tefillin. The tefillin. All right? And so you wrap this around so that you have this constant reminder of what God has done for you, that the Lord brought you out of Egypt. And so this is that reminder that's here. The other thing, the phylactery, all right? Jesus yells at the Pharisees, you enlarge your phylacteries, all right? Which sounds really, I don't know, what'd you just call me? All right? The phylactery is sort of a headband, a leather headband with like a miniature little chest of drawers right there on your forehead. And so it has a little drawer, and you write scripture down, and you put it inside the little box that's right here on the front of your head, strapped to the leather strap around your head. So you have the tefillin and you have the phylactery. And the Pharisees in Jesus' time, they got so religious that they started making them like really big, so they would walk around and their phylacteries would be really big. And Jesus goes, guys, seriously, that's not what we're going for here, all right? That's not the point, is see how big you can get your phylactery, okay? It's just to be a reminder of you of this covenant, okay? 10, keep the statute at its appointed time. Again, 14th day of the first month, then that's Passover, 15th through the 21st or 22nd-ish, somewhere in there. This year it fell on April 13th through the 20th. So it generally falls right around, obviously our Easter and Passover are connected. That's why we never know when Easter's going to be until we look on a calendar. So drives me insane every year. When's Easter? I don't know. When is Easter? Yeah, it's March, it's April, I don't know. It's something on the lunar calendar that tells you that, and I know what it is. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, well, March. How long have you been going to church? All right, you never know when Easter's going to be. You just told to show up, right? Yeah, yeah. It's something like the first full moon after the spring equinox or something like that. And so it moves around, and it's just a constant. Why can't it be just like Christmas? All right, give me a date. Let it be that. Be done with it. We can move on. All right? I don't think Jesus was raised on the first full moon of the spring equinox, whatever. It's just, that's how they do Passover, so we'll just let them have it. Okay. I would think so. I would think you would know that. You've been in church long enough, so. All right. Okay, that's the appointed time, is that Nisan 14 is Passover, 15th through the 21st, 22nd is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. 11, when the Lord brings you out of the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, which fathers? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and gives it to you, you are to present to the Lord every firstborn male of the womb. All firstborn offering of the livestock you own that are males will be the Lord's. All right? So what do you do? How do you give God the firstborn sheep and the firstborn goat and the firstborn of all these things? How do you do that? Do you like throw it in the air and God like catches it and it disappears, or what? You sacrifice? Yeah, you would take it to the altar. All right, so it would either be sacrificed or it could be what? What would you say? You do set it apart, but it's definitely not yours anymore. Okay? You just let it roam and God can pick it. Now, it would either be dedicated to the temple in some way, shape, or form, or it would be sacrificed. That this would be a giving. You literally would give whichever was first. Okay? And that's the Pentecost is the festival of first fruits. And it's a really interesting practice that they have, that they will take, so when you plant your garden, your whatever, you see the first fruit, the first plant to shoot up at this, all right, whatever your watermelons or whatever. And what they would do is they would tie a red cord around that stem. Whichever stem comes up first, you tie a red cord around it. And so then months later or weeks later or whatever later, when it comes up, you know, oh, that's the first watermelon. That's the one we take to the temple at Pentecost. All right? So the same practice would be done here. This is how they would do it. The firstborn of whatever lamb, goat, whatever. We even get donkeys in here, okay? That belongs to the Lord. Why? Because Israel was God's firstborn. He kills Pharaoh's firstborn, and now you consecrate your firstborn, all right, while you're not eating leavened bread, okay? I don't know why that combination just strikes me as funny. All firstborn offering of the livestock that you own or males are to be the Lord's. Verse 13, you must redeem every firstborn of a donkey with a flock animal. Okay, now what does this mean to redeem a donkey? So God doesn't want your donkey. You can do with that what you want, all right? God doesn't want the donkey for whatever reason. No, you have to redeem your firstborn of a donkey with a what? Flock animal. What's a flock animal? Not a bird. No, it couldn't. It's either a sheep or a goat. So when you redeem donkey, all right, what do? You take a sheep and you do what? Yeah, you literally ransom the donkey by giving a sheep. That's what the word literally is translated as, ransom. Apolutrosis. Lutron is a ransom payment. So if somebody kidnaps somebody and says, I demand $1 million, well, that $1 million would be the lutron, and the verb action is to loose, luo. So the lutron is the payment that luo releases, sets free, unties whatever was being held ransom. And that's called a redemption. Redemption, ransom, same idea, okay? So what do? So if you have a donkey, you have to redeem it because God doesn't want your donkey. So you have to do what? Take a ram, lamb, sheep, whatever, and go, here, you can have this. Okay, you can keep your own donkey. Go home, okay? Or if you don't do that, but if you do not redeem it, you have to break its neck. So you have to kill the donkey if you don't redeem it. So if you don't have something to redeem with, you got to kill your donkey. Sounds a little extreme. Hey, it's God's rules, not mine. However, you must redeem every firstborn among your sons. Okay, now what do you do with your firstborn? How many of you are firstborn sons in the room? Okay, so Kurt and Josh, y'all had to, Bobby, you as well? Okay, yeah, you would belong to the Lord, okay? And that means your parents would have to give you over. Now with sheep and goats, what do? You sacrifice them. You give them up. Now, you have to redeem your firstborn sons. So what do you give? What do you ransom your firstborn son back to your family? What do you do? With some type of lutron, all right, a ransom payment. And so according to Numbers, it was 5 shekels. 5 shekels of silver. So you would say, here is my firstborn son, and I'm giving him to you, but I'm going to redeem him by giving 5 shekels of silver. Okay, so you essentially ransom your son back to it, and it's, okay, now we're square. Now, another thing that they do, eventually God's going to say, okay, instead of that, I'm going to take all the tribe of Levi, and all the tribe of Levi will be symbolic of all of your firstborn sons. So it's not that I'm going to take every one of your firstborn sons anymore. I'm going to take the entire tribe of Levi in place of, or in redemption or ransom for all of your sons. Does that make sense? Kinda? Yeah, go ahead. No, this is the entire tribe of Levi for the sons. No, yeah, just once. Yeah, you redeem that son that one time. Okay? Yes. I know this is complicated, and it's like, what's the point, Bob? I'm like, it's just in the text. Work with me. Go. Yeah, I mean, obviously Samuel would be a firstborn son. Jesus was also presented in the temple on the 8th day, And so a lot of people say this was theirs because Joseph and Mary give, I think it's like 2 turtle doves or young pigeons or something like that, because they were a poor family, and there was an exception for poorer families. You could do this versus this. So we think Jesus in Luke 2, whenever he meets Anna and Simeon in the temple on that 8th day, that he was being presented, consecrated, the firstborn, and they would have done that ransom or redemption payment at that time. So yeah, I mean, all firstborn sons fell into this category. All right. Again, I don't want to go too far on this, but it's just in the text, and we need to cover it. 14. In the future, when your sons ask you, parents, what does this mean? You say to him, by the strength of the hand of the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, us, God's firstborn, children of Israel, the Lord killed all of Pharaoh's firstborn males land, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of livestock. That is why I sacrifice to the Lord all the firstborn of the womb that are males, but I redeem all the firstborn of my sons. So let it be a sign where? On your hand. Remember what it's called? Tefillin. Tefillin. All right. The tefillin is the wrap. And you can look it up. Tefillin. All right. And a symbol on your forehead, which is the phylactery. All right. For the Lord brought us out of Egypt by the strength of his hand. Now, how many times has he just said, the Lord has brought us out of Egypt by the strength of his hand? In that section right there, it's 3 times, which means what? That's very important. It's a superlative. I said it 3 times. I meant it, all right? 17, let's get some action, all right? That was all sort of firstborn without leaven and all that good stuff. 17, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them along the road to the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearby. And that land of the Philistines is Gaza. So if you want to equate anything right now, that land of the Philistines, the Negev, is the Gaza Strip, literally the Gaza Strip. So he doesn't take them out of Egypt along the coast of the Mediterranean, running into Gaza, all right? Even though it was nearby. For God said, I don't know who he said it to, but he said it, the people will change their mind. They'll have a change of concern, a change of heart is the Greek, and return to Egypt if they face war. All right? Now, what does verse 17 tell you about God? When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them along the road to the land of the Philistines, even though it was nearby, for God said the people will change their mind and return to Egypt if they face war. What does that tell you about God? Say it louder. Yeah. Why does he not want them to face war? We're not sure about that, to tell you the truth. It's really an interesting thing in the text. But what does he know about them? What does he know about them? If they face war, what does he say? They're going to change their mind. They're going to complain. They're going to whine. They're going to go, no, we're going back to Egypt. God knows your whiniest moment. And sometimes he's kind enough or allows you to have your whiny moments, and he doesn't take you in that direction because he knows your whiny moments are bigger than your faith in God, and he doesn't push you past the point where you can stand that temptation. So in here, he says God didn't lead them, even though this was closer, even though this was a more direct route. God went, oh man, if I take them there, I know what's going to happen. That whiny in them it's just not going to work out well. So I'll take them a different route because I know my people. And I know their weakness. And so in this moment, he says, all right, I'm going to take you a different route. Now, was this a better route? I mean, we know the story, right? I don't want to send them that way because they'll run into war, all right? So I'm going to redirect them. And this will be a whole lot more fun, right? And it makes for a much better cartoon when it plays out, okay? 18. So he led the people around toward the Red Sea. along, and we don't know what this is. When it says the Red Sea, we just don't know exactly which body of water this was, all right? Now, National Geographic will do all sorts, and Discovery Channel and History Channel, they'll do, well, it means this, and it means this, and it means this, and it was, a very shallow thing, and they just walked across, and then I don't always go, well, how did the Egyptians drown in like 2 inches of water? Unless they all fell face down and none of them could raise their heads, all right? The whole Egyptian army drowns in 2 inches of water, which the Israelites walked across. I'm like, come on, there's more to it, all right? Led the people around toward the Red Sea along the road of the wilderness, and the Israelites left the land of Egypt in what? Battle formation. What in the world a bunch of slaves doing in battle formation? You see what I'm saying? And we've had hints of this earlier. They were referred to not as just a gaggle of slaves, but a host, which means an armed force, all right? It's almost as if they're marching out in military. You see what I'm saying? There's a hint here that they weren't just slaves who just did what they were told, that there was some aspect of possible mercenary type military. Pharaoh is originally worried that if Pharaoh's enemy attacked them, the Israelites might join them. Y'all remember that text? All right, so that's why he starts throwing them in the Nile and all that stuff, all right? Because there seems to be some type of military component to this, all right? So we get little hints like that, but we don't get anything definitive. 19. So Moses took the bones of Joseph, all right? Now, how old are these bones at this point? They're about 200 years old, all right? They're about 200 years old. The bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the Israelites swear a solemn oath saying, God will certainly come to your aid. Now, why would they need the aid of God in the mind and the heart and the thoughts of Joseph? Because what were they doing in the time of Joseph? Where were they living? What were their conditions? They were living in the best part of the land. Joseph was sort of the second in command, and he's saying, God's going to come to your aid. What was he kind of prophesying? That they would fall into slavery, that they would need that aid. So God is going to bring this. Then you must take my bones with you from this place. So if he's tracking the Genesis 15 promise, he knows this is coming. He says, I want you to do this. Take my bones with you when you go, because he believed in that promise. They set out from Sukkot, which means a tent, and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to lead them on their way during the day, and a pillar of what? Fire to give them light at night. To which when Jesus says, I am the light of the world, he's telling them in the middle of Sukkot, the festival of tabernacles or festival of booths, which had a large sort of lantern that they would sort of put up in the main area in Jerusalem that would light up the whole city at night. It was symbolic of this pillar of fire. So Jesus comes along during this celebration of when they were wandering through the wilderness following the pillar of fire, and Jesus says, I am the light of the world, not that. To which gets him killed, right? 6 months later, all right? There's always these hints of these things. So pillar of cloud during the day, fire at night to give them light so that they could travel day or night. And the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night never left its place where? In front of the people. Very important. It's always in front of the people. They're always following this. It's always leading them, all right? And it says the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud. So this pillar is not just a cloud and not just fire. It's the presence of God himself, okay? So 14, we pick it up, and we'll get a little more into this. So just hang with that thought. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites, turn back, literally make a U-turn, apostrepho, which means to turn around, and camp in front of Pi Hahiroth, between Migdal and the sea. You must camp in front of Baal Zephon, facing it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites. Now, God's telling Moses all this. Here's how this can play out. You're going to tell everybody to turn around. I want you to camp right over here because you were going this way, and I want you to turn around and come back this way. Pharaoh is going to say of the Israelites, they're wandering around, they're in confusion, and the wilderness has boxed them in. In other words, they don't know how to get around the water, the sea, so they're making U-turns and going back and forth, okay? And God is scripting all of this out. Can we say predestination? He's predestining what is going to take place. Remember our word? Anybody remember the word for predestination? Horizo, before the horizon. Like I said, the sun is below the horizon, and guess what? Every day, what does it do? It comes up. So tomorrow morning, when you get up at like 6, you go, I bet that big ball of light, that big ball of fire is going to come up over the horizon, and you're going to go, dang, I was right again. That's predestination. That's the word for predestination. I see it before the horizon, and all of a sudden it is manifested. So I can say, yeah, the sun's going to come up today. Well, you're predestining it. You're speaking prophecy. You're speaking future. Why? Because you know what happens every single day. The same thing, it comes up, all right? God is predestining, horizo, all of these events, just like he did with Peter. Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. Judas, you're going to betray me. Guys, go into town. There's a guy with a water pot on his head. Guys, go into town. There's a donkey tied up. Loose it and bring it to me. All of these things are just foreordained, horizo, okay? 3, Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they're wandering around in confusion. The wilderness is boxing them in. 4, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart, which he's done a few times now, right? So that he will pursue them. Then I will receive glory by means of Pharaoh and all his armies, and the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh. So the Israelites did it. Knowing what? What's really at play here? What have the Israelites just become? I want you to make a U-turn because I want Pharaoh to think you're confused and you're boxed in so that he will pursue you so that I will receive glory and he'll find out who I really am. Moses, go tell the Israelites to do this, and they go, okay, we will be what? Bait. You're the worm on the hook. All right, literally. And do you think they're going, oh, no, I don't want to do that at all? How much of the story do you think Moses told the Israelites? Because God said, turn around and go back this way. That way Pharaoh will think you're confused and he'll come and attack you and I'll receive glory. If you're telling the story to Moses, if you're Moses and you're telling the story of the Israelites, how much do you tell them? Just, hey, I think we're going to go back over here. I think I saw a way to get across over here. Okay, let's go. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Let's see what happens. 5. Because this is horizo, right? So here's how boom, 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 boom. 5. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their mind. They made a turn in their own mind about the people and said, what have we done? We've released Israel from serving us. So he got his chariot ready, took his troops with him. He took 600 of the best chariots and all the rest of the chariots in Egypt with officers in each one, which is really interesting because didn't all the livestock die in the plague? We don't know. It just says the livestock died. The livestock that was in the field died. I don't know if that's an exception here, but there are things like this. But again, don't treat the Bible like it's got some factual, has to be everything. It doesn't give us all the information all the time. Just give it a little break every now and then. What have we done? So he got his chariots ready, 600 of them. Verse 8, the Lord hardened the hearts of Pharaoh the king. Check, right? Isn't that what he said he was going to do? You turn around, camp here, I'll harden his heart. Lord hardens his heart. He pursued the Israelites. Check. He said, what are they going to do? Well, they're going to go, hey, they're confused. Let's go get them. So he pursued the Israelites who were going out triumphantly. The Israelites are going out triumphantly with a high hand. What are they doing? I always say this is kind of like the Americans during the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. And even more so at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics when we've actually won all the events. All right? How are we going out? Yeah, we are. It's a celebration. I mean, it's high-handed. They're going out triumphantly, which makes Pharaoh what? Even madder. And now he thinks they're confused. They think they have this, and now they're all celebrating. The Egyptians, verse 9, the Egyptians and all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, horsemen, his army, chased after them, caught up with them, and as they camped by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth in front of Baal Zephon. Does that sound familiar? Exactly the same place. They're like literally right next to each other, okay? Which, good or bad, if you're the Israelites? Pharaoh and his chariots and armies, you and your, I don't know, tunic. This probably wouldn't be a good thing, right? If you looked up and you saw, oh, that's very, oh, they came out to wish us well, right? Is that what you're thinking? All of his chariots? As Pharaoh approached, verse 10, y'all ready? As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up and saw the Egyptians coming. Your text says after them. It's in the Greek, it's more correct to say behind them. So after them, behind them, one implies they're coming after you, and one implies where they're coming from after you, okay? So it's behind them. Then the Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord for help. Would you? You look up, yeah, they let us go, yay, we're free. Oh no, they're coming after us. I don't think anybody's going, wow, that's so nice of them to come out and say goodbye. Maybe they forgot to give us some of their gold and silver, and they're giving us this. No, they're terrified. Yare, they're in fear, and cried out to the Lord for help. Boetheo. Boetheo is when the father cries out, help my son. Jesus says, if you only believe. He goes, I do believe. Help my unbelief. This is that boetheo, to cry for help. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Okay, so just jump in the story here for a second. You're camped out. You see Pharaoh's army coming after you. You're afraid. You're terrified. You're crying out to the Lord for help. And in this moment, you decide to complain to Moses about bringing you out here. Verse 11. Look at verse 11. They said to Moses, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the wilderness? Now, is this a moment for sarcasm? Is this a moment for complaining and grumbling and blame? No, you're terrified, you're crying out for help, but you're just evil enough to complain about the way God saved you 3 times, right? All right? It gets worse. What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Isn't this what we told you in Egypt? Leave us alone so we can serve the Egyptians. You're choosing slavery? They would go back. Now again, what does God say when he says, I didn't take them the route of the Philistines? Because if I had taken them that direction, what would they have done? Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. Well, now you got Pharaoh and all of his best chariots chasing after you. And what do? We told you. We told you if you just leave us alone, we could serve them and not die out here in the wilderness. So in their terror and in their crying out to God for help, they do find time to gonguzmos. All right? Our Greek word for complaining. They do find time to complain, which tells you the heart of these people. And you know, sometimes I give them a break because what have they been doing for the last 80 years? 80 to 100 years? Making bricks. And what has God done? Up until a month ago when this guy named Moses showed up, my entire life I've been making bricks and haven't heard a peep out of this God. And now they get some of these miracles, and they start to go, maybe. And then now Pharaoh's on their heels about to wipe them out. And what do they revert to? What they've been thinking for the last 75, 80 years of slavery. That slave mentality keeps coming back to them, right? They don't adjust into this. This is the God that protected us at the Passover. They slip back into that slave. Any of you guys do that? You have the old you. You have the old you that doesn't trust God and doesn't really experience God, and you slip back into that from time to time. When the heat comes, you slip back into the old person. You slip back into the old person you were, and you don't live in the abundance of life that God has given you, that you've experienced lately. I think they're just doing the same thing. And I don't blame them. I think this is human nature that we have to overcome. It's not an excuse. Don't hear me that. It's not an excuse. It's something we have to overcome. We have to go, you know what? That was in my past. Now God has shown me this, this, and this. I'm going to trust this more than I trust my default opinion, experience, whatever that was when I was growing up. Whatever that was when I was in that condition. I choose this. It'd be better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness, verse 13. But Moses said to the people, now what do you think Moses is going to say to the people? What would you say? Why did you bring us out here? Why didn't you we told you just leave us in there. To which, if I'm Moses, I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. God, I'm done. Beam me up. I'm good. All right? I didn't sign up for this. But what does he say to them? Don't be afraid. Stand firm and see the Lord's salvation. He will provide for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You must be quiet. Be still. Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Same idea right here. How would you describe Moses' words? Don't be afraid. Stand firm. Stand up straight. See the Lord's Yasha, his salvation. He will provide for you today. How can Moses say that? What's coming after them at full speed? Pharaoh and his chariots. And they've got what? Who knows, maybe? He's going to provide today. He's going to fight for you. You don't need to do anything. You just need to be still, be quiet. When Amnon rapes Tamar, Absalom comes to Tamar and says, you don't need to do anything. I'll take care of this. And Absalom does, right? This is what he's saying here. God's got you. Don't worry. You don't worry about this, all right? What does that tell you about Moses' character? What's Moses going to say about Moses in Numbers 12? Moses was the word that we translate humblest, but it's the meekest. Meek, it's a Greek word pros. It means power under control. You ever heard someone or seen someone that just viciously attacked, and they just sit there and take it? And they keep their power under control. They don't respond in kind. They don't lash out. They maintain this meekness, this power under control. And really in their mind, they're going, I could destroy you at any moment. I could retaliate at you at any moment, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to keep my power under control. And what does Moses demonstrate in this moment? In the face of these complaints, and in the face of these vicious personal attacks, what does he do? He leads. He keeps that meekness, and he leads, and he encourages them. All right? And that's why he calls himself the meekest man to ever live. Verse 15, the Lord said to Moses, which is kind of not fair, why are you crying out to me? Well, wait a second. What's wrong with that question? Moses didn't cry out to anybody. It's the people crying out. But Moses, God says, why are you, literally it's singular, you, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to break camp. Tell them to quit whining, break camp. As for you, lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and you divide it so that the Israelites can go through the land on dry ground. Did you ever notice that before? He doesn't say, you stretch out your hand, you lift up your staff, and I will divide it. He says, you do it. You do it. I am going to harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will receive glory by means of Pharaoh and all his army and his chariots and horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I receive glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now that completes that other paragraph when he was predestining all the things that were going to take place. All right? I'm going to harden his heart. He'll pursue you. He'll camp out. I will receive glory. He'll know at the end of this thing. Verse 19. Then the angel of God, who was going in front of the Israelite forces. Now, what's in front of the Israelite forces? The pillar, okay? The cloud, the pillar of cloud, pillar of fire but it's the angel of God is spoken of in this moment. It's also said the Lord was in the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. So now we have the Lord in there, the angel of God, and it's described as simply the pillar of cloud, right? So there's this sort of very mystical, theological, divine presence that's embodying this pillar of fire. So again, 19. Then the angel of God, who was going in front of the Israelite forces, moved and went where? It's always in front, right? But not in this moment. And the Prince of Egypt movie gets this right. The only part that's really right. It literally, this pillar goes and it goes behind. It leaves its place in front where it always was, and it goes behind. Why? Because in this moment, he's not leading, but he's doing what? Protecting. All right? The pillar of cloud moved in front of them and stood behind them. It came between the Egyptian and Israelite forces. The cloud was there in the darkness, which means, was it cloud or was it fire? How awesome would this be? It's a pillar of fire right now. And this pillar of fire goes over your heads and lands in between, preventing them from... Now, are you still scared? Are you going, glad don't have to be scared anymore? I think I'd be more scared, not of those guys, but of whatever that was that just leaped over us and is protecting us. That's where the fear comes into play. So it was in the darkness, yet it lit up the night. Neither group came near the other all night long. 21, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back with a powerful east wind all that night and turned the sea into dry land. Now, what's really interesting is an east wind would be at the Israelites' backs. Theoretically, the Red Sea would have gone north and south, so the east wind would have cut across in the direction in which they were going. So it's almost like it was driving, almost like a plow, through the Red Sea, causing the wall of water to go up on both sides. Okay, y'all get that imagery? Okay, and again, the movie, really cool, because especially when the shark goes in the wall. I love that part, all right? So Moses stretched out his hand. The Lord drove back the sea with a powerful east wind. All that night turned into dry land. So the waters were divided, contrary to the National Geographic Discovery History Channel of the 2 inches of water that they walked through, all right? And the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with the waters like a wall to them on their right and on their left. This is the exact same word that's used to describe the walls of Jericho, okay? So it's not like the wall over there, okay? This was a wall, a massive wall. 23, the Egyptians set out in pursuit, all the Pharaoh's horses and chariots and his horsemen, and went into the sea after them or behind them. Now, if you're an Egyptian and you're watching this and you're seeing walls of water and you're seeing this, and you've experienced the last month or so of everything that you've experienced, and you see this, and you see the Israelites going through on dry ground, is there anything in you that goes, maybe we shouldn't go there? Maybe we should just let them go. I would think that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, okay? 24. Then during the morning watch, which we believe to be 2 to 6 a.m., all right? Remember, it was at night, so about 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., the Lord looked down on the Egyptian forces from the pillar of fire and cloud, all right? Again, he's embodying this thing. He looks down from there and threw them into confusion. He caused the chariot wheels to swerve and made them drive with difficulty. And they all came to their senses and said, let's get away from Israel. You think? You think? The Egyptians said, because Yahweh is fighting for them against Egypt. Now, who told them that God would fight for them? Moses did when he was encouraging them. All right? Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may come back on the Egyptians, or may cover the Egyptians on their chariots and horsemen. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak, remember the watch 2 to 6? So right after this, the sea returned to its normal depth of 2 inches, according to National Geographic, right? All right? While the Egyptians were trying to escape from it, the Lord threw them into the sea. It's as if it's saying, oh, some of them got away, and God went, no, 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 you're back in. You get back in, kind of like those kids that when you throw them in the pool, all right? Just grab a kid, throw them in the pool, all right? 28, the waters came back and covered the chariots and horsemen, the entire army of Pharaoh that had gone after them into the sea. None of them survived. So what's left of Pharaoh's Egypt? Imagine all the plagues, and now the Lord hardened your heart, and now 600 of your best chariots gone. They're not a whole lot left, all right? That's like a Pyrrhic victory. 29. But the Israelites had walked through the sea on dry ground, with the waters like a wall to them on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the power of the Egyptians, and Israel beheld the Egyptians dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians, the people, what? Feared the Lord and believed in him and in his servant Moses. So compare and contrast this last sentence up here in verse 10. When the Egyptians started coming after him, they did what? Same exact word, feared. And now what do they fear? They fear the Lord their God, who had saved them, who had rescued them. Until about 10 minutes later, when they don't have food and they don't have water, and they do what? Complain. Gonguzmas. Until God gives them this, and they go, yay! Until about 5 minutes later, when they don't have something else, and they do what? Complain. Now you understand why Moses says he was the humblest, meekest man to ever live, because he put up with that for 40 years. Whew. But I want you to think through this. Think through this. Like I talked about, they kept reverting back to the old person, the one that was frustrated with God, the one who didn't understand why God would let them have experienced this and why God would do this. And they failed to sort of adjust and adapt to this God that Moses had seen and Moses was telling them about, the one that would fight for you. And that's the victory you need to live in, because it's very easy for the enemy to go, yeah, but remember when, and you will fall back into that, and you will cease to trust in God, what he can do and the power that he has demonstrated and what he's trying to accomplish in your life. And that's where if I could do anything, if I go back and go, guys, here, seriously, you got to quit. You got to quit going back to the old person. You got to quit going back to this old mentality. And you have to buy into this, because he proves himself over and over and over. And at some point, you got to trust that he is this God, not this one you created in your mind from your negative experiences. All right? Because the enemy will always use that. Amen? He does with me. I don't know about you, but he does it with me. All right. Let me pray. Let's go. Father, thank you so much just for an opportunity to look at this amazing story, this just amazing text right here. And Father, I pray that you would just continue to remind us, that you would put these Moses characters in our life that encourage us, um, that in spite of all of our whiny, complaining, old person excuses that are such a lie from the enemy, that you would bring those Moses-type figures into our lives that would encourage us and lead us to be the people you desire us to be, lead us to a life of victory and abundance, so that we can please you, we can have faith in you, and that we will walk in victory. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.